You know, we won the second election by a lot, so we had to just prove it by winning the third by too big to rig, I called it. It was too big to rig. And it was an amazing victory. And thank goodness we won, because we were in big trouble. We were in big trouble. But the new recruit.
So that was Donald Trump stunning members of the United States military into silence, many of them looking down and away as Trump lied his ass off and ranted incoherently about all sorts of things in his latest unhinged speech in a desperate attempt to politicize the military for his own purposes. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as we've discussed, one of the things that has changed between Trump term 1 and Trump term 2 is that Trump's speeches to the military are much more overtly political even than they were in his first term, where he openly attacks, insults previous commanders-in-chief of the United States military, his Democratic predecessors like President Obama, President Biden. He goes after Democratic lawmakers. He rants and raves and lies his ass off. And there's been a mixed response in speech, where you have some members of the military laugh and applaud, which is incredibly dangerous and incredibly concerning, because in speeches like this, which aren't supposed to be political, when a soldier, a Marine, a sailor, when a member of the U.S. military is in their uniform, they are supposed to be fastidiously apolitical. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat, Republican. You're not supposed to express any sort of partisan political affiliation, but Trump is working aggressively to erode those norms, and he does it here in this speech as well. I'm going to show you some clips. But as a reminder, of course, Trump did not win the 2020 election. He lost it badly to President Biden, and then he tried to unlawfully remain in power in the most treasonous act a sitting president has ever engaged in. So the irony here is off the charts. But let's continue.
Inflation. Back home, we had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Energy costs are down. You know, energy costs are way down. Gasoline prices are way down. Grocery prices are way down. We have a little problem with beef. We're going to get that down very quickly, but the prices are way down. Mortgage rates are down despite having an incompetent head of the Fed. I call him too late. He's always too late. He's too late in lowering interest rates. I call him Jerome Too Late Powell.
So again, members of the military stunned into silence by Trump's obvious lies. We talked about this in a recent video. The recent reporting on this shows that inflation is continuing to trend upward. It is Trumpflation. It was trending downward under President Biden. It has since reversed course under Donald Trump, in large part because of his disastrous tariffs. Gas prices are actually soaring, not declining. Grocery prices are soaring, not declining. This is just, again, objective reality, and Trump is hoping, and he has found some measure of success, again, whether we like it or not, he's found some measure of success in this respect, by just lying to people persistently enough that he will warp their sense of reality. But it doesn't seem that the United States military is particularly amused by that. Here's another clip.
Gulf to what is now known as the Gulf of America. Isn't it nice? They say it now routinely. I heard the news today. The Gulf of America, weather is wonderful. They don't say it with a smile. It's called the Gulf of America. How did that happen, right? And it took me, you know, for many years I said, why is it called the Gulf of Mexico when we seem to have the shore? Well, we do. We have 92% of the shoreline. So I said, you know, when we make it back, not if, when, too big to rig. We made it too big to rig. I said, get out and vote. Too big to rig. Make it that way. I said, I'm going to change it. And one of the first things I did is I changed it. Nobody could even fight it. They tried. We got sued all over the place. We won every suit. And it's now officially the Gulf of America. Isn't that nice? But our sailors have written honor, greatness, and triumph into the pages of history. What you're doing is incredible, and it's an incredible time for our country on gun decks and flight decks and torpedo rooms and cockpits, the men and women of the Navy.
So again, he calls it the weave, right? We weave, but I mean that incoherent rant, and the camera was cutting. This was on Fox News. The camera's cutting to, again, visibly stunned and visibly bored members of the military who were probably just like, bro, this could have been an email. Wrap it up, wrap it up. Gulf of America, too big to rig. I told people to vote. And, you know, we won the lawsuits. You know, God bless America, Gulf of America. There's a trend here. God bless the Gulf of America, really, when you think about it. I mean, why wouldn't God bless the Gulf of America? You wouldn't have done it if it was still the Gulf of Mexico. You understand what I'm saying? It's just no wonder that Trump let it slip the other day, which we did a video about, that even though Carolyn Leavitt did everything in her power to conceal this, he did indeed have an MRI scan, and he did indeed receive a cognitive test to determine whether or not he has dementia or Alzheimer's. We're seeing his cognitive decline on full display, and it's getting worse with each subsequent speech. Here's another clip.
The greatest economy in the history of the world. We had an economy like nobody has seen before. Now we're doing it again, but this time actually it's going to be much bigger, much stronger. I told you $17 trillion, but it's going to be $21 trillion. And that's numbers that have never been heard of before, much bigger than any other country in the world by literally $16 trillion.
Again, he's just lying his ass off. It's just so funny. The number 17 trillion, 20 trillion, 21 trillion, 37,000 billion trillion in 6 weeks because I'm just that damn good. The GDP annually of the United States of America is about 32 to 36 trillion dollars, maybe 34. And so, again, he's just lying his ass off when he says that he's secured investments for half that in 1 year. There's absolutely, in the most general, most generous, most, benefited the doubt style of accounting, there is no tabulation, no accounting for the claims that Trump has made. The White House official page, which again is a propaganda tool for Trump, they have $8.8 trillion in investment listed. And as we've discussed in one relentless fact check after another, it's not even $8.8 trillion of investment. Much of that is in terms of an exchange of goods, $600 billion trade deal. Like, this country and I, we agree that we'll have $600 billion in trade. Well, that's not a $600 billion investment, asshole. Again, it's like if we exchange goods and the value of the exchange goods, you and I, is $60. You did not invest $60 in me. We either exchange the value of the constituent 60, or you gave me $60 in exchange for an item that you thought was worth $60. But that's not an investment. And Trump's just lying or too stupid to understand the difference. And the condescension here, the patronization, he thinks that the military and his supporters are too stupid to understand it too. Here's another clip.
Think of this $17 trillion, trillion with a T, pouring into the United States of America from all over the world. And that's the biggest number in the history of any country. And by the time, and this is in 8 months, really, we're here 9, but this is in 8 months, over $17 trillion. As an example, the last administration did less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We did more than 17 trillion in 8 months. And I think by the time we finish up our first year, we're going to be over 20 or $21 trillion of money coming into our country. And I want to thank Japan, because Japan is making big investments in.
They're not. And they've had to fact check Trump on this. He's like, they're making investments. Like, no, it's a potential deal or loan or a combination of deals and loans where we get, the principal and interest back, or we get an exchange of goods valued at this amount. It's not, trillions of dollars of investment. And he's just lying his ass off about this. Just relentless. Switching topics for a bit, Trump brought up Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and I thought this was a curious choice because he just reminded the military that their boss, the defense secretary, was actually just a Fox News host before this, totally unqualified.
He was formerly our Secretary of Defense, but now he is proudly known as our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. And, I don't say this. He gave up a hell of a job. They were going to pay him millions of dollars. They didn't want him to leave. That crazy Fox, they didn't want him to leave. But he wanted, every time I'd go on that show, all he wanted to talk about is the military. And I said, if I ever do this, I'm going to bring this guy along with me. He knew more about it than anybody. He didn't want to be doing the other stuff. And
again, I just thought it's a strange choice that you're reminding everybody, hey, before this, he was a Fox News host. He was a TV anchor, effectively, with very little experience. Yes, he was in the military, and yes, he served competently. My understanding is but in terms of his administrative and strategic experience, virtually none. Virtually none. Certainly not for this job, which is why it's been such a clusterfuck since he took over. One snafu after another. He's trying to drive the media out of the Pentagon because they're reporting on his various embarrassments, one signal chat leak after another. The guy's a total clown. And I just love after he gives that uproarious applause, they're like, yeah, do you guys remember he used to work at Fox? And it's just almost like a chill over, like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not cool. He doesn't really have the qualifications for this gig. Great reminder, Donald. Here's another clip.
Thank you very much. A big hello. This is a special group of patriots, champions, winners. You are winners. Oh, I'd love to have your job. I'd love to have your job.
So again, I just thought it was a strange thing to say. I'd love to have your job. What do you mean? You would love to be in the military? Didn't you get multiple draft deferments because of that's why they call you bone spurs, right? Like a physician who is a family friend of your father's managed to orchestrate your deferment from the draft, and you never chose to enlist. And listen, I don't think you're a bad person if you choose not to enlist, but it's just one thing to be like I've never enlisted, and I have no interest in enlisting. But it'd be like me going up, so man, I'd love to have your job. Okay, well, why don't you enlist, or why didn't you enlist? That's a really good question. Somebody said, "You're cutting out. You're going through a tunnel. You're right." It's just so stupid. And again, he just says it without even thinking how it might be received by the people he's saying it to. So there are other clips I could show you. I will end on this one because to me, again, it's just a snapshot into Trump's very twisted psyche about respect and who and what should be respected first and foremost. Take a look.
Really, frankly, to the world. Japan respects us. If you see what's going on all over the world, they're respecting us again. They respect us like never before. The treatment they gave me all over as I go around to different countries is great, but it's really a respect for me, but it's a big...
So yeah, just want to say, and he goes on to say, there's respect for you too, but it's like, again, notice how he leads with himself. It's just about me. They're showing me respect. They're showing me respect. It really is about me, but it's also about you too. That's not very encouraging. Again, the lack of humility, the lack of any sort of sane response to this sort of thing, like understanding the gravity of the office you hold, the ceremony of how you're speaking and whom you're speaking to. None of that matters to Trump. He has absolutely no regard for these people whatsoever, and he can barely force himself to even fake it for just minutes at a time. It's pretty embarrassing. So there you have it, folks. Trump's latest disastrous speech in front of the United States military as he tries to twist and weaponize it and politicize it in ways which are profoundly dangerous, and something that the Democratic Party needs to be mindful of if and when we ever get back into power, and if and when we have a Democratic commander-in-chief, because we need to institute even more safeguards to prevent that sort of thing from happening. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.